The 13th Warrior had everything going for it. The director of Die Hard, the author of Jurassic Park, and a $100 million budget. Then it all fell apart. Two directors fought for control, the studio panicked, and when the dust settled, a completely different version of the film was locked away and never released. Here are 10 facts about the 13th Warrior you didn't know. Number 1. This film is actually a Beowulf retelling. Most people watch The 13th Warrior and see a Viking action movie. What they don't realize is they're watching one of the oldest stories in the English language. The film is based on Michael Crichton's novel, Eaters of the Dead, which itself is a clever retelling of Beowulf, the ancient epic poem about a warrior who defeats a monster terrorizing a kingdom. But here's what makes it interesting. Crichton didn't write this book because he loved Beowulf. He wrote it because of a bet. A friend who taught literature challenged him, claiming that old epic poetry could never be made interesting to modern audiences. Crichton took that bet and wrote Eaters of the Dead to prove him wrong. His approach was genius. He took the Beowulf legend and grounded it in historical reality, framing the whole story through the eyes of Ahmad ibn Fadlan, a real Arab traveler from the 10th century whose actual writings about encountering Vikings still survive today. One fan summed it up perfectly. I loved it before I even knew it was Crichton's version of Beowulf, then loved it even more. Number 2. The language learning scene changed cinema. If you've seen this film, you remember the fireside scene. Ahmad sits among the Vikings night after night, listening to their conversations. Slowly, fragments of words become clear, and then suddenly, he understands everything. Fans consistently call this one of the most memorable scenes in the entire film. One viewer described it as unforgettable and an amazing technique. Another said, the detail of him learning the language is so rare in movies, especially action ones. What makes this scene brilliant is what it doesn't do. Most films would use subtitles, or have characters conveniently speak English, or skip the language barrier entirely. Instead, director John McTiernan used a series of dissolves to compress weeks of immersion into a few minutes of screen time. The payoff comes when Ahmad finally speaks, and the Vikings demand to know how he learned their language. His answer is perfect. I listened. But here's what's remarkable. This scene actually inspired real-life change. One fan wrote, "This film inspired my passion for travel and languages, and I credit it with being a foundation for my colorful life. I learned Polish through sitting in pubs with my Polish pals and paying attention." A movie scene inspiring someone to learn a language decades later? That's rare. Number 3. They cast real Scandinavian actors. Hollywood has a habit of casting Americans and Brits in everything, regardless of the character's origins. The 13th Warrior took a different approach. The production deliberately cast Scandinavian actors for the Viking roles. Dennis Storhøi, who plays Herger the Joyous, is Norwegian. This decision added an authenticity that most Viking films completely ignore. Instead of teaching American actors to fake Norse accents, they hired actors who actually understood the culture they were portraying. One fan noted this specifically, saying, "The use of Scandinavian actors instead of trying to teach Anglo-Norse impressed me the most, especially Dennis Storhøi." It's a small detail, but it contributes to why the film feels more grounded than typical Hollywood fare. Number 4. Herger became one of cinema's most quotable characters. Speaking of Dennis Storhøi, his character, Herger, is responsible for some of the most quoted lines in the entire film. When Ahmad complains that his sword is too heavy, Herger's response is brutally simple: grow stronger. When Ahmad seems afraid before battle, Herger delivers the film's philosophy in one speech. The All-Father wove the skein of your life a long time ago. Go and hide in a hole if you wish, but you won't live one instant longer. Your fate is fixed. Fear profits a man nothing. Fans can't stop quoting this character. Beyond the famous lines, smaller moments stick with people just as strongly. It's all right, little brother. There are more. When Ahmad panics about enemies. Is there a cave? During the desperate search for the Wendol lair. One viewer called Herger one of the best-written characters in film and noted that some of his lines are some of the best. Another simply admitted, I quote so many lines from that movie in daily life. The friendship between Ahmad and Herger, the Arab poet and the Norse warrior, gives the film an emotional core that elevates it beyond simple action. Number 5. Omar Sharif came out of retirement. Omar Sharif was one of the biggest movie stars of the 1960s. Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, Funny Girl. By the late 1990s, he had largely retired from acting to focus on his true passion, playing bridge competitively. For the 13th Warrior, he came back. Sharif plays Melchizedek, Ahmad's wise mentor in the film's opening scenes. It's a small role, but his presence adds weight to the entire production. As one fan put it, Omar Sharif came out of retirement and probably had to stop playing bridge for a few hours to make this movie, so that was historic in itself. Sadly, this would be one of Sharif's final significant Hollywood roles before his death in 2015. His appearance in The 13th Warrior represents one last connection to classic cinema's golden age. Number 6. Bullywhiff's actor became the fan-cast Thor. Before Chris Hemsworth picked up Mjolnir, fans had a different idea of what Thor should look like. That image came largely from Vladimir Kulich's performance as Bullywhiff in The 13th Warrior. Kulich brought a physical presence and quiet authority to the role that fans found unforgettable. One commenter stated directly that the actor who played Bullywhiff was the most accurate to what Thor should look in live-action films. There's a stillness to Kulich's performance that modern blockbusters rarely allow. He doesn't need to shout or flex. His Bullywhiff commands respect simply by existing. The final image of him remains seared in fans' memories. As one viewer described, the king, after the battle in the rain, sitting on the seat, sword in hand, proud, defiant, dead. Number 7. The Viking prayer became real for fans. Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my sisters and my brothers. Lo, there do I see the line of my people, back to the beginning. This prayer, recited before the final battle, has transcended the film itself. Fans have memorized it. They recite it to their children, and in some cases, they've incorporated it into actual funeral services. One viewer wrote, "The chant prayer that Bullywhiff and the rest do at the end always moved me quite deeply, and it still does. In fact, I wish to have it printed on the death remembrance card at my funeral service." Another shared, "I'm 68 years old. Loved the book and the movie. I memorized the prayer and my grandkids still ask me to quote it to them." It's remarkable that a prayer written for a Hollywood movie has become genuinely meaningful to people facing real mortality. The scene works because the film earns it. We've spent time with these warriors, understood their values, and now we watch them face death with absolute acceptance. That's not just entertainment, that's something deeper. Number 8. The film bombed against impossible competition. The 13th Warrior released in August 1999. The same summer as The Sixth Sense. The same summer as The Blair Witch Project. The same summer as The Matrix. It didn't stand a chance. The film reportedly lost over $100 million, making it one of the biggest box office disasters in Hollywood history at that time. Critics dismissed it. Audiences chose other options. Within weeks, it had vanished from theaters. As one fan reflected, "I don't give a rat's ass what the film critic says. I love this movie and have watched it dozens of times." But here's where the story gets interesting. Number 9. It became one of the most rewatched films ever made. Despite that theatrical failure, something strange happened. People who discovered The 13th Warrior on home video couldn't stop watching it. The comments from fans are almost unbelievable and deeply personal. One person claims to have seen it over 1,000 times. Another watched it every single night for an entire year because her husband couldn't sleep without it playing. One fan watches it annually on his father's birthday. "My dad loved this movie. Now that he's passed, I watch it every year on his birthday." Others describe it as essential comfort viewing. "This is one of my top go-to rainy day or cold weather films." Another calls it a go-to for every wet Friday. One comment captured the paradox perfectly. "I've seen The Sixth Sense once, Blair Witch maybe 3 times, but I watch The 13th Warrior every few months." It may have failed in theaters, but it's the kind of movie that you can rewatch regularly and not get bored with it. Someone who actually worked on the film even appeared in the comments. "I still have such great memories from working on this film. Crazy times. What an adventure." How does a film fail so spectacularly in theaters, yet inspire this level of devotion? Part of the answer lies in our final fact. Number 10. A lost cut exists that fans are desperate to see. Here's what happened behind the scenes. John McTiernan, the director of Die Hard and Predator, started production on The 13th Warrior. He had a specific vision for the film. Then things fell apart. Creative differences emerged between McTiernan and Michael Crichton. Eventually, Crichton took over directing duties himself and ordered extensive reshoots. The budget ballooned. The release was delayed over a year. What ended up in theaters was essentially a hybrid. Scenes from McTiernan's original vision stitched together with Crichton's new material. This explains why some viewers describe the film as feeling disjointed. But somewhere, McTiernan's original cut exists, or at least, the footage does. Fans know something is missing, and they want answers. "I'd love to see McTiernan's original vision realized, or even a purely Crichton version," one wrote. Another requested a collector's edition where they put the original cut back together so you could watch both and see the differences. Others simply plead, "Geez, I would like to see the original cut." The hunger is real, and after 25 years, it shows no signs of fading. The 13th Warrior is a film that shouldn't work. It had a chaotic production, 2 directors with different visions, and released into the most competitive summer in modern cinema. By every industry standard, it's a failure. And yet here we are, 25 years later, still talking about it, still rewatching it, still hoping to one day see what might have been. As one fan wrote, "It's one of those movies that you enjoy watching again and again. If you haven't seen it, give it a chance. And if you have, maybe it's time to watch it again."